You're listening to Sacramento Smooth Jazz.
Welcome back to Sacramento Smooth Jazz, where the heartbeat of music echoes through our city. Today we spotlight a local legend, Big Mike Hart Jr. He's with us today, and he's born and bred right here in Sacramento, ladies and gentlemen. Big Mike's journey, his musical journey, is a tale of passion and perseverance. His early fascination with the guitar, a gift from his uncle Jimmy, set the stage for a lifetime dedicated to the art of sound. From his high school band days to making waves in LA, Big Mike has crafted a beautiful sound, blending gospel roots with the rhythms of R&B and even funk. Now he's a celebrated producer and songwriter. He is a true embodiment of musical dedication. So join us as we dive into the world of Big Mike Hart today, a man whose music resonates with the soul of Sacramento. Big Mike, welcome to Sacramento Smooth Jazz. How are you today?
Amazing, man. Happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm thrilled about this conversation because I know you got some new things, and I'm excited about that, man. So being a native of Sacramento, you've seen the evolution of music.
Yeah.
How has the city influenced your music or maybe even your career path?
Sacramento is the foundation, man, from church down to high school, playing in the band, to graduating, man, and hitting the club scene, man, being able to play and, all around town, from Harlow's to Maryland's, which is no longer there anymore, down to the Homegrown Soul Show that used to happen, man, all the open mic stuff. And, so Sacramento, man, is definitely woven into the fabric of my career deep.
Your uncle giving you a guitar, now it's evolved into what you're doing now. Great producer, songwriter. You've worked with so many people with that guitar. It's speaking loudly for you. So it's taking you all over the world.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that evolution from playing in different spots here in Sacramento to just now evolving into a producer working with so many. Talk to us about that. How did that become to be?
Well, man, I've always had a love just for the creative side of music, outside of just learning how to play an instrument and learning songs, but the passion for being able to create and write and build a record, understanding the components of what makes a great song, and a hit record, diving into the world of songwriting and diving into the world of production, man. Fortunately, man, I had my Uncle Jimmy, who's an amazing singer, amazing bass player, an amazing songwriter. Having him at an early age, man, trained me up, and then moving into mentorship of two other great Sacramento Platinum Grammy-nominated producers, Joe Archie and Derek DOA Allen. Those two gentlemen, Joe in particular, started me on my recording journey, helped me get my first studio equipment together in high school, and really carved out the producer pathway. And then DOA took me under his wing as a producer and guitarist and bassist, taught me how to produce from a guitarist perspective and tricks of the trade from that angle. All three of those gentlemen, man, just really gave me all of the necessary tools for me to take and use to develop the skill set that I have now. Production, songwriting, man, that's huge passion and love that I have, man, just for the craft and the appreciation, man. I love Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, Babyface, James Taylor, David Foster, Gamble and Huff. Those kind of producers, man, those kind of songwriters, where the records that are 50, 40 years old, man, are still sounding amazing and influencing the genres today. People are still sampling and studying their work, man, and I wanted to be the kind of producer that created records that would stand the test of time, man, and influence generations to come.
You're doing that. In fact, you mentioned some mentors, and it's a testament to, and it shows us that this is true, that when you surround yourself with greatness, then chances are you're going to be great.
Yeah.
And the caveat of that is being teachable, coachable, trainable, being attentive to listen.
Absolutely.
And so that you can evolve. So I know that by having these greats, you got Joe Archie. Yeah, he's amazing. You got Derek DOA Allen. Amazing. And here you are learning from them. I know it wasn't always easy, okay? And because life isn't always easy. We want it to be Candyland, but we know it's a lot deeper than that. So even with these individuals in your corner pushing you, because in an introduction, we talked about how, you embodied preservation. You persevered through so much. So what was the part where you had to say, listen, I'm going through some things, but I'm leaning on these mentors. So you have to make a decision when you want to kind of do things your way, I'm assuming, and listening to those who have already paved their way. What's that process like when you're maybe going through that crossroads and wanting to do things your way versus even listening to a mentor? Because there are people who are listening who need to hear what you have to say about this.
Well, I think understanding that when you have people who are willing to share advice and experiences that they've had, both good and bad, if you really want to get to where they've already been, I think that's the thing, to understand where you want to go. And if these people have accomplished things in their career and milestones that you have on your goal list, take heed to their direction, because they've been where you want to go. They may still be there or surpassed it or what have you. But as a student, I think I've always understood the importance of listening, not just hearing, but really paying attention to what they did. And trial and error plays a part in it as well, because there's things that you try on your own, no matter what the field you're in.
Right.
And some of it works, some of it doesn't. I think the beauty in that is you discover your voice in whatever it is that you're doing. And when you bump your head, you have people who said, well, I did that one time too. I understand the mistake you made. Here's a correction. Here's an alternate way of accomplishing whatever you're setting out to do. And just having the mindset to take in everything, man. It's more than one way to skin a cat, but listen to somebody who skinned it. You could figure out your way later, or take their method and approach and then figure out what you can pull from that and how it applies to you and how you can use it your way, but still listen to it because they've done it and they did it successfully. And ultimately the end goal is to be successful at whatever you attempt. So
you've traveled all over the world. You've shared the stage with so many amazing artists, and now you are going to a whole nother level with respect to your travels and working with so many greats. Obviously, we've all dealt with some challenges.
Sure.
What has been some of the biggest challenges that you faced in your career, and how'd you overcome that?
I think balance, because I tour, I produce, I songwrite, I engineer. I'm a family man. So you have all of these things in life, man, that pull you several different ways. And I think just figuring out how to balance and prioritize and schedule, that's the biggest thing, man. Life is about balance. And once you find it, whatever works for you, just try to put it in a rhythm, man, and stick to it so it's functional. And I think once you figure that out, which I have, thank God, working out for me, man. So that was probably just the biggest challenge, man, in all that I do.
Now, I want to talk about this guitar, because I understand you guitar the Holy Ghost.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Talk to me about that. A lot of listeners know guitar, Holy Ghost. What's happening with that?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, church is always the foundation for most African-American musicians. I'm no different. I grew up in church, and primarily, man, in the gospel world, style-wise, quartet was what I grew up listening. My grandfather had my uncle's quartet group, and sing around town and all the 3 o'clock church programs, man, just as a kid. I'm assuming my syllables weren't developed quite yet, so pronouncing guitar was probably a more difficult word to say than the other Holy Ghost, or I'm not sure how well I said that either, but I attempted saying that and identified the guitar, watched my Uncle Jimmy play and my Uncle Alonzo play bass and all that stuff, and I just gravitated towards it, man. It was like, Holy Ghost, man,
Right.
Yeah, that was my term for it.
Right. Well, the Holy Ghost is definitely taking you to the far reaches of the world.
Indeed.
Right? In more ways than one,
Yeah.
And what I want our listeners to understand is that I'm speaking with producer, songwriter, Big Mike Hart Jr., and he's toured all over the world. He's produced music. He's shared the stage with so many people. But I want just for a moment to let the people understand that when they see you on the stage. And you've been on stage with Boney James. You've traveled with Boney James. So when I'm looking at the stage, you're right on the left jamming on the guitar, the Holy Ghost. People understand that's who you are. And before we started on this interview, I was talking beforehand how I saw you get time on that stage, and I saw you take your glasses off one day. I said, oh, he's about to throw down. Taking the glasses off. I don't need to sweat to get in these glasses. You put them down. I said, oh my gosh, he's about to throw down. And of course you do.
Thank you, man.
And the crowd goes nuts when you do your thing. And so I want to get people who are listening the perspective of what I'm talking about, because I know we're joking around about the Holy Ghost and everything, but man, you're doing it, and your experience, your fortitude, your dedication to listen to your mentors, to push through any adversity, to understand that this is your calling, this is what you want to do. So you're not letting anything get in the way. Now, with respect to songwriting, producing, which hat do you seem to wear the most?
As of lately, man, I've been more of a touring musician than in the studio. But, I lean more on songwriting and producing because to me, they go hand in hand. And I try, honestly, to apply that to a live application. And when I say that, I mean, when I'm on stage playing and I do something that may not have been in the original record that I learned to perform, I think like a producer, man. I try to be intentional in whatever riff I play, whatever compliment that I add to Boney or vocalist that I'm playing with on stage. And I just want to make sure that I'm playing the part of the record. I'm giving the energy, the feel, the emotion, which is everything that as a producer, I try to instill either when I'm vocal producing or working with an artist in the studio. I'm trying to pull out the emotion so that it's on the record. And when the listener hears it, they could feel the same thing that we poured in the studio. So I make sure that I take that producer hat and I put it on when I'm a guitarist. The same rules I apply when I'm working with an artist, I put on myself, because I want to make sure that it's the best performance, whether I'm doing the 15th take in the studio to make it perfect, or it's a one and done and we live and you got to hit it as soon as you start the song in front of thousands of people. I want to make sure the execution, the emotion, the delivery, the vibrato when I hit the string, the tone, all of that matters. And that just boils down to the detail that producers have to have when creating. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Now, listening to your music, and I'm noticing you're evolving. And now with your, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but with your latest track that just dropped, I'm saying, okay, he's now entering more into the smooth jazz arena, which is why I wanted you here. Mm-hmm. What was that decision-making process like? Say, hey, I want to start doing this or get more into this.
Right.
Talk to us about that evolution from your first album to now.
With this new single that's out, it's more like coming home than going into something new. Initially, when I decided to commercially release anything of my own, the first project I did was a smooth jazz project, which was called Young Man Old Soul. For everybody listening, it's available at bigmikehart.com. It's on all the streaming platforms. That initial project was to showcase production skills and songwriting skills, but I was still new to the genre itself, but I wasn't new to production. So I used that particular record and myself to kind of show people what I could do. And I kind of fell in love with just the overall genre, smooth jazz, contemporary jazz, man, and dove more into the different artists. Never in a million years did I think I would be having the opportunity to share the stage, let alone travel the world with somebody like Boney James, and then be on all these other stages with all the other great artists that do this same thing. But, I think this project just evolved, and this single in particular, based on everything in between that first project and now, which was nothing smooth jazz related. After that initial project and moving from Sacramento to Los Angeles, I dove into everything else, the R&B world, and I had the opportunity to tour with so many people, Kenny Lattimore, Kim, Lloyd, both the adult contemporary to the younger R&B side. But those influences and experiences helped craft my approach to smooth jazz today, because I think being able to do from a small intimate setting like a Yoshi's in Oakland to I just recently returned from overseas, in London doing the Wembley Arena, that you're talking 25, 30,000 people. Those kind of stages help shape and mold the sound that I want to present to the smooth jazz and contemporary jazz community, where you get an intimate feel with a huge sonic impact. It's not the typical sounding smooth jazz records, but it's bigger sonically. It's a little more edgy, but it's familiar to their palate. And all those influences and experience give that whole presentation that we have with the new record, new single that you guys have out now.
Nice. Now, you mentioned your website. How can people get in touch with you? How can they connect with you online?
They can connect with me online at bigmikehart.com, www.bigmikehart.com. All of my social media links are there. But if you just want to go straight to social media, all of my handles are at BigMike2987. And I'll do you one better. You guys can contact me on social media, DM me, email me on my website. But if you really want to talk to me, give me any feedback on the record, tell me how you like it or how it makes you feel, you can text me directly. I have a number where you can text me right now, and I will respond to you at my earliest convenience. And that number is area code 818-405-8398. Again, 818-405-8398. You can text me, DM me, email me, and I promise I'll get back to you.
You're giving up some goods there that folks that really are appreciative. Now,
yes.
Speaking of your latest track, we want to feature that. So
sure.
How did that come to be? Give us the whole thing on there. You know, who's behind it? What can you say about this?
So the new single that we just released on January 15th, titled Cigar Lounge, featuring the great Boney James on saxophone. That record, man, was just me coming off the road and, you know, taking all the pent up stage vibes and residual energy from the crowd and being anxious and ready to get back to my studio, you know what I mean? And sitting in here with my boy Brandon Harris, who played drums on the record. We were just in the studio and I just kind of started creating, man, you know, something I wanted, something that felt good. I didn't really have a clear direction, but I had a clear vibe and a feeling of where I wanted to go. So, you know, that's just me picking up the guitar, figuring out some chords, something simple, nothing too overly complicated, but a groove that anybody could play and everybody could feel and tap your feet to. And then, you know, it just turned into like water, man. It was just flowing. He ended up leaving and I just zoned in here by myself. I had the lights low, keep my studio vibe pretty dim. And, you know, God just dropped melodies and chord progressions in my spirit. And down from the rhythm guitar to, you know, I played Rhodes on the record, foundation chords. And then once I got that down and the loop and the vibe, then I started with the melody, man. I started with the chorus melody. A lot of times, you know, I'll try to hum things as well. You know, not a big vocalist. I try to sing here and there, but I think every producer thinks they can sing a little bit. But that's sometimes how I think of things. You know, I feel like if you can sing it, you can play it. Humming, do-do-do-do-do-do, and it just kind of fit over the chords. Picked up my guitar again and locked in that groove, man, and it felt great. Laid down the verses, and then my boy Brandon came back, and our boy Phil was with him, and they came into the studio, and I pressed play. I said, man, y'all gotta hear this. And they were just blown away, because Brandon and them hadn't been going that long. So when they came back, man, maybe, you know, hour or two later or so, they were like, yo, man, this is crazy. And that was the initial track. And then, you know, obviously, you know, as a student, you always want your mentor's approval or their input or what they think. So, you know, a lot of times, you know, when I'm vibing on a record that I think is strong, you know, I'll always send it off for a second opinion. And I shot it over to DOA, and he was just like, dude, this is crazy. He said, man, the melody, what you wrote, he said, this is a hit record. That's exactly what he told me. He said, you got one. This is crazy. And all you got to do, man, is get Boney on it, man. And I knew the kind of record it was. It was right up Boney's alley. Because after being on the road, you learn people, you listen to their music, and you know somebody's vibe. And I knew he would sound great on anything, but he would sound incredible on this. And when he heard it, it was a no-brainer. Went to his house, his studio, produced them. I think we had just got off the road a couple of days later, went and recorded them. Brought all his files back to my studio, edited, did everything, and I mixed and mastered it, and it was sounding great, you know? And then, of course, because I played everything on it initially, bass, Rhodes, the whole shebang, and then I was like, okay, cool. Now that we have it where it needs to be, now we need to put some key ingredients on it. That's when I had Brandon Harris play drums on the record, called Big Bro DOA again. I said, hey, man, I know I play bass, and he gave his approval. He said, man, your bass line is it. That's it. It don't need nothing no more. And I said, it needs you. I just need your DNA on this record. Yeah, I like my bass and it's cool, but it would be an honor, man, for my first release to have you on it in this new phase of my life and my career. It was important that he was a part of this record. And then I reached out to another mentor of mine, somebody who I developed a really amazing big brother, little brother relationship with here in Los Angeles, a gentleman by the name of Guitarist Sr. He is another amazing producer, songwriter. He's just one of those guys. When you get time, listeners, Google Greg Curtis Sr. He's attached to some of your favorite records like Love, Keisha Cole, Blue Eyes Blue, Eric Clapton. So the pedigree of guys on this record are nothing short of amazing. He came in and added organ and whirly on top of my Rhodes to give it movement and body and a little more character. And that was great. And then I said, man, it sounds amazing. But I have a big ear and I hear big production while still trying to make it as commercial as possible. There's musicality things that I wanted. And I said, I need icing and sprinkles. We have the cake and it tastes great, but I just need a little more for the presentation. I reached out to a good friend of mine, trumpeter, Mr. Marcus Paul, and he came to the studio with no hesitation. And the trumpet arrangement to complement and give a bed for Boney sax was everything that record needed, man. And I literally sang all the parts that I heard and he played everything. If you want to check out some of the, what we call BTS, behind the scenes footage, hop on my Instagram. You can see some clips of me and Marcus in the studio going over some of the parts that made the record. And you can get a little bird's eye view and be a fly on the wall to the creative process, which we now know as Cigar Lounge.
You have walked us through the evolution, the creation, the evolution, and the birth, all of this. And I am thrilled. I'm more excited about the track than I was after hearing it. Knowing all the DNA is on this, knowing all the different touches that's on this, and hearing how your man DOA is saying, no, you're good enough. No, he's like, no, I need your DNA on this.
Yeah.
And I like that. And you have incorporated a number of people, and which really just, it sends a message that it's always not about just us. It's about teamwork. It's about having other folks chime in as well, because that makes the dream work. And so that's a lesson for our young folks. You have to incorporate others into the dream. Cigar Lounge.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, you get to hear it right now on Sacramento Smooth Jazz. Big Mike Hart, thank you for hanging out with us today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. It was a pleasure. Thank you for the platform, man. And it's a true honor, man, just to talk about my record, man, to my city. So thank you.
Thanks for listening to Sacramento Smooth Jazz. To continue listening to Smooth Jazz 24/7, follow Sac Smooth Jazz on social media and listen by going to sacsmoothjazz.fm.